Say we're not near.
Scoot over.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
Good morning.
Everybody. Gonna turn on some music. Start Saturday morning. My wife's looking at me. I don't know exactly what that look is exactly. Oh, that's a little different. I'm gonna start out with one of my new favorite groups.
Do my favorite song.
Which one? God knows.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
God's God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a road. Be careful who you following. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road. Be careful who you following. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. I travel the road, some people don't make it out, but we emerge. Everyday battle, I'm fighting my demons. Live on the promises found in the word. Get rid of doubt, that can be cancer. If you let it seep into your mind, no matter the problem, I carry the answer. It's a fact, he's always on time. I never had a halo, but I got love for the people. Driving around, look up some people. Walk inside, right down to the altar. Raise my hands, oh God, I need this. Handing me the word, young man, you read this. What about send my son? I bleed this. Grab that mic right there, get busy. Give the truth, that's all they'll see it. Back in the building, we bringing the virus, and everyday walk, we would never retire. Don't have to be Sunday for you to get blessed. Turn on the record, you think it's a choir. No Kanye, but I've been through the wire. We all had a struggle, we gotta get through. You ain't gotta be like everybody, believe it and see. You just gotta be you, truth. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road. Be careful who you follow. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road. Be careful who you following. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. I know heaven and hell, and I can tell the devil be on my block. Showing me things, pulling my strings, keeping me clutching the clock. Get the best spot, the game is back. Evil in every turn. If you lose your way, you will pay, and the cost will always burn. Don't trip up and get flipped up. Out here playing the glass. Man to bite your hand, putting the food in the mouth. It's a solo show, you need to know life is not a race. It's a journey for us to love and trust and chase the wolves away. Come on. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road, be careful who you following. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road, be careful who you following. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again.
Nope, have not. Anything like you either in my life.
Delivered. I wake up with my hands raised. One God, one Savior. He took me out and he cleaned me up. But my soul nasty to root of Vegas. I thought that I was too far gone, but in reality, I underestimated. I give him all of the glory. Without him, I'd have never made it. I prayed over my refugees, working on the box, but I don't have to worry. FFM, I lead my team with the Holy Spirit like Stephen Curry. We out here with his real message. No rubber bands and no trigger fingers. Besides, all y'all the same to me. I don't see a love at their wedding singer. Good for me. Y'all know that sun rose like 6 o'clock. Comparing me to the old rares like Jordan 8s to a pair of Crocs. So different, new ambition. Switch gears and all new missions. Spread the word on top of beat from J2. Maybe somebody will reach state of repentance. Give it up. Take it, we gotta listen. Hell's hot, better get up in the kitchen. Take attention to the mission. You get a fire. You don't even need to audition.
Why are you throwing our son on the ground?
He said, I just scored mom in a dance battle.
There was 2 one-liners yesterday. Very good.
Do what?
These 2. turn to the Bible. These two things right here. This is the hardest enemies to defeat are the idols in your own hearts. Oh, so good. And then this one says, even when he's not in the foreground, he's always in the background. Those are really good.
So good. I hate that
Good morning. What's up?
Good morning. What's up?
I beat my mom in a dance battle.
And then fell on the ground. And also, he didn't beat me to begin with. So there's that.
Yes, I did.
No, it's untrue. Good morning, party people. My name is Stacey. This is my husband, Chris, and our son, Demarion. We are stepping into our next day of reading the Bible chronologically. What does it say? What day?
Day 186.
186. And with the guidance of the Bible recap by Terry Lee Cobble, which is incredible and very helpful and has just been such a blessing to us. So we're about to read it for this morning. I'm really sad that I missed yesterday. I've got to go. I still need to go back and watch the replay, but was that yesterday? Then the day before that, my first book come out, and we some sweet women made a celebration plan for me, and it was amazing. So I got to go to Oklahoma City and do that. But when I went to bed that night, it was freezing in my room. They'd gotten us an Airbnb, and I was just like this. And so I had like gone to sleep, but was like half awake. You know what I'm saying? When you're cold and you're just like, I can't move
Because it's too cold.
because it's too cold.
But
I also can't sleep
because it's too cold.
because it's too cold. Right. Exactly. So that was half of my night for sure. But eventually I did get up and put a bunch of sweats on and change the temperature out in the hallway, thinking hopefully whoever in the house liked it this cold is not upset if I change it now, since they've had it this way most of the night. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. That's
Glad you're here, babe.
a great quote you shared from yesterday. The hardest
Enemy to defeat, the hardest enemies to defeat are the idols in our own hearts.
Yeah. That's good.
I was talking about Jehu yesterday, and now he did some really good stuff. He had killed Jezebel, killed Alethea, but he had killed several people and done a lot of good things. But then he struggled with the worshiping of because he even destroyed all Baal worship stuff and killed all their people, but then struggled with the golden calf, like worshiping. So, yeah.
Interesting. Right.
Craziness went on yesterday. I was like, it's probably
The Bible is crazy.
that you weren't there to read, because like
Period.
it was like pretty brutal. Jezebel got told up.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read it.
So,
I'm gonna go listen to it.
The Bible's crazy.
The Bible is crazy.
That's what
it's not boring.
That's for sure.
A lot of people think.
It's like a novel.
Something.
Well,
I then.
Second Kings, where we are today, 12 and 13, and then Second Chronicles 24 are the two different Bibles are reading for the day. Oh,
But-
you go let you in, please. Am I reading first? You reading first? What are we doing?
I'm reading first.
If you want me to read the recap, it would be 12, 13, 2nd Chronicles, and then me. So you be first.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
In the 7th year of Jehu, Jehoash began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. And Jehoash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all his days, because Jehoiada, the priest, instructed him. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away. The people continued to sacrifice and make sacrifices on the high places. So he did destroy those. Joash repairs the temple. Jehoash said to the priest, all the money of the holy things that is brought into the house of the Lord, the money for which each man is assessed, the money from the assessment of persons, and the money that a man's heart prompts him to bring into the house of the Lord, let the priest take each from his donor and let them repair the house, wherever any need of repairs is discovered. But by the 23rd year of King Jehoash, the priests had made no repairs on the house. Therefore, the king Jehoash summoned Jehoiada, the priest, and the other priests, and said to them, why are you not repairing the house? Now, therefore, take no money from your donors, but hand it over for the repairs of the house. So the priests agreed that they should take no more money from the people, and that they should not repair the house. Then Jehoiada, the priest of it, on the right side as one entered the house of the Lord. And the priests who guarded the threshold put in it all the money that was brought into the house of the Lord. And whenever they saw that there was much money in the chest, the king's secretary and the high priest came up, and they bagged and counted the money that was found in the house of the Lord. Then they would give the money that was weighed out into the hands of who had oversight of the house of the Lord. And they paid it out to the carpenters and the builders who worked on the house of the Lord, and to the masons and to the stonecutters, as well as to buy timber and quarried stone for making repairs on the house of the Lord, and for any outlay for the repairs of the house. But there were not made for the house of the Lord basins of silver, snuffers, bowls, trumpets, or any vessels of gold or of silver from the money that was brought into the house of the Lord. For that was given to the workmen who were repairing the house of the Lord. And they did not ask for an accounting for the men into whose hand they delivered the money to pay out to the workmen, for they dealt honestly. The money from the guilt offerings and the money from the sin offerings was not brought into the house of the Lord. It belonged to the priest. At that time, Hazael, king of Syria, went up and fought against Gath and took it. But when Hazael set his face to go up against Jerusalem, Jehoash, king Judah, took all the sacred gifts that Jehoshaphat and Jehoram and Ahaziah, his fathers, the king of Judah, had dedicated, and his own sacred gifts, and all the gold that was found in the treasuries of the house of the Lord, and of the king's house, and sent these to Hazael, king of Syria. Then Hazael went away from Jerusalem. The death of Joash. Now the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles? The kings of Judah. His servants arose and made a conspiracy and struck down Joash in the house of Milo, on the way that goes down to Silla. It was Josachar, the son of Shemaeth, and Jehozabad, the son of Shomer, his servants, who struck him down so that he died. And they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. Amaziah.
Amaziah.
I don't know, all of a sudden I forget how to say it. Amaziah, his son, reigned in his place.
Jehoahaz reigns in Israel. In the 23rd year of Joash, the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, began to reign over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 17 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and followed the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. He did not depart from them. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he gave them continually into the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, and into the hand of Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael. Then Jehoahaz sought the favor of the Lord, and the Lord listened to him, for he saw the oppression of Israel, how the king of Syria oppressed them. Therefore the Lord gave Israel a savior, so that they escaped from the hand of the Syrians, and the people of Israel lived in their homes as formerly. Nevertheless, they did not depart from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, which he made Israel to sin, but walked in them. And that the Asherah also remained in Samaria, for there was not left to Jehoahaz an army of more than 50 horsemen and 10 chariots and 10,000 footmen. For the king of Syria had destroyed them and made them like the dust at threshing. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz and all that he did and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria, and Joash his son reigned in his place.
Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Jackie. Jehoahaz began to reign. Oh, where did I stop? Jehoahaz.
Right there, verse 10.
Excuse me. Did you move it?
That's where you said.
Jehoash reigns in Israel. In the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, began to reign over Israel in Samaria. And he reigned 16 years. He also did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin, but he walked in them. Now the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, and the might with which he fought against Amaziah, king of Judah, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat on his throne, and Joash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. She's the sweetest baby there ever was. I love it when she does that. When she lays on you next up. The death of Elijah. Now, when Elijah had fallen sick with the illness of which he was to die, Joash, king of Israel, went down to him and wept before him, crying, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. And Elisha said to him, take a bow and arrows. So he took a bow and arrows. Then he said to the king of Israel, draw the bow, and he drew it. And Elijah laid his hands on the king's hands, and he said, open the window eastward. Then Elijah said, shoot, and he shot. And he said, the Lord's arrow of victory, the arrow of victory over Syria. For you shall fight the Syrians in Aphek until you have made an end of them. And he said, take the arrows, and he took them. And he said to the king of Israel, strike the ground with them. And he struck 3 times and stopped. Then the man of God was angry with him and said, you should have struck 5 or 6 times. Then you would have struck down Syria until you made an end of it. But now you will strike down Syria only 3 times. So Elisha died, and they buried him. Now bands of Moabites used to invade the land in the spring. Now bands of Moabites used to invade the land in the spring of the year. And as a man was being buried, behold, a marauding band was seen, and the man was thrown into the grave of Elisha. And as soon as the man touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood on his feet. Now Hazael, king of Syria, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. But the Lord was gracious to them and had compassion on them, and he turned toward them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them, nor has he cast them from his presence until now. When Hazael, king of Syria, died, Ben-Hadad, his son, became king in his place. Then Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, took again from Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael, the cities that he had taken from them. Jehoahaz, his father, in war. From Jehoahaz, his father, in war. 3 times Joash defeated him and recovered the cities of Israel. Yes, my love. Said what?
You said because
I know. Shh. How are you doing, Miss Jackie?
How you doing, Jackie?
Good morning.
Sorry.
Good. I'm going to start this. 2 Chronicles 24. Joash repairs the temple. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Jehoiada got for him 2 wives, and he had sons and daughters. After this, Joash decided to restore the house of the Lord, and he gathered the priests and the Levites and said to them, "Go out to the cities of Judah and gather from all Israel money, to repair the house of your God from year to year, and see that you act quickly." But the Levites did not act quickly. So the king summoned Jehoiada the chief and said to him, "Why have you not required the Levites to bring in from Judah and Jerusalem the tax levied by Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the congregation of Israel for the tent of testimony? For the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken into the house of God and had also used all the dedicated things of the house of the Lord for the Baals."
Go ahead. I'll read this.
So the king commanded, and they made a chest and set it outside the gate of the house of the Lord. And proclamation was made throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring in for the Lord the tax that Moses, the servant of God, laid on Israel in the wilderness. And all the princes and all the people rejoiced and brought their tax and dropped it into the chest until they had finished. And whenever the chest was brought to the king's officers by the Levites, when they saw that there was much money in it, the king's secretary and the officer of the chief priest would come and empty the chest and take it and return it to its place. Thus they did day after day and collected money in abundance. And the king and Jehoiada gave it to those who had charge of the work of the house of the Lord. And they hired masons and carpenters to restore the house of the Lord, and also workers in iron and bronze to repair the house of the Lord. So those who were engaged in the work labored, and the repairing went forward in their hands, and they restored the house of God to its proper condition and strengthened it. And when they had finished, they brought the rest of the money before the king and Jehoiada, and with it were made utensils for the house of the Lord, both for the service and for the burnt offerings, and dishes for incense and vessels of gold and silver. And they offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord regularly all the days of Jehoiada. But Jehoiada grew old and full of days and died. He was 130 years old at his death, and they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel and toward God and his house. Now, after the death of Jehoiada, the princes of Judah came and paid homage
Thomas.
to the king. Then the king listened to them, and they abandoned the house of the Lord, the God of their fathers, and served the Asherim and the idols. And wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem for the guilt of theirs. Yet he sent prophets among them to bring them back to the Lord. These testified against them, but they would not pay attention. Joash's treachery. Then the Spirit of God clothed Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, the priest, and he stood above the people and said to them, "Thus says God, why do you break the commandments of the Lord so that you cannot prosper?" Woo! That is a word. Because you have forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you. But they conspired against him, and by command of the king, they stoned him with stones in the court of the house of the Lord. Thus Joash the king did not remember the kindness that Jehoiada, Zechariah's father, had shown him, but killed his son. And when he was dying, he said, "May the Lord see and avenge." Joash assassinated. At the end of the year, At the end of the year, the army of the Syrians came up against Joash. They came to Judah and Jerusalem and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people and sent all their spoil to the king of Damascus. Though the army of the Syrians had come with few men, the Lord delivered into their hand a very great army, because Judah had forsaken the Lord, God of their fathers. Thus they executed judgment on Joash. When they had departed from him, leaving him severely wounded, his servants conspired against him because of the blood of the son of Jehoiada the priest, and killed him on his bed. So he died, and they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the tombs of the kings. Those who conspired against him were Zabad, the son of Shimeath, the Ammonite, and Jehozabad, the son of Shimrith, the Moabite. Accounts of his sons and of the many oracles against him and of the rebuilding of the house of God are written in the story of the book of the kings. And Amaziah, his son, reigned in his place.
There's a couple of Amaziahs, I'm realizing.
Yeah, I think so. Gotta be.
All right. Gooch. Let's do a recap. Southern Judah's new king, Joash, also called Jehoash, is only 7 years old. Oh, yeah, that's right. On the last one, he became king, and he was only 7. That's right. Fortunately, he has a wise advisor, the priest, and as long as the priest is alive, he seems to keep Joash in line. The priest does get two wives for Joash, but it's possible the second wife doesn't show up on the scene until after the first wife dies. For the most part, Joash follows God's commands, with the exception of tearing down the high places for idol worship, and even commands the restoration of the temple. It has fallen into despair since the people have been so focused on worshiping idols. They've even used some of the temple instruments in their worship of Baal. But the priests of the temple don't follow Joash's orders for how to finance the restoration process. They either don't collect the taxes God required, or they collect them and embezzle them while they lounge around for 23 years.
Shut the door.
Joash finally puts his foot down and makes an offering box, and the people are actually happy to give to this cause. He uses their money to hire workers for the repairs, since the priests can't be trusted. Workers are honest and they do good work. Joash's reign goes fairly well until the priest dies. Then he goes off the rails. He starts seeking counsel from local princes who flatter him and eventually lead him into idolatry.
So
The priest's son warns him about his consequences of the sin, and Joash's people stone him to death. Then God sends the judgment. The priest's son prophesied in his last words. It comes in the form of the Syrian army. They're small, but they manage to defeat Judah's army and severely wound King Joash. While he's down for the count, his servant sees the opportunity to avenge the murder of the priest's son. Their king has lost their trust, so they enact the death penalty on him. Then his son Amaziah takes the throne in Judah. Meanwhile, in northern Israel, Jehu's son Jehoaz is on the throne. He's wicked, but he does not seem to recognize what God is doing in Israel. He does seem to recognize what God is doing in Israel. He notices that they seem to be under God's judgment, so he seeks God's favor. But let's be honest, he's not really seeking God, he's seeking relief. And God certainly knows the difference. The heart of Jehoaz is repentant. Nonetheless, God demonstrates his mercy and sends someone to help him, possibly human help, possibly divine help. The text isn't clear on that. And even after all that, after God answers his prayer with a yes, Jehoaz and the people still don't repent. When Jehoaz dies, his son Joash, or Jehoash, a different one, takes the throne. To prevent confusion with Judah's king Joash, we'll call this king in Israel Jehoash. Jehoash is a wicked king, as are all the kings in northern Israel. In his final days, when he's concerned that the Syrians might destroy, he consults the prophet Elisha, who has him do strange actions in preparation to face Syria in battle. As a prophet, Elisha often works through signs and theater. Right? Theater. And in this scenario, he uses arrow shooting and ground beating to convey his insight and wisdom from the Lord. Then Elisha dies. Later, as people are preparing to bury a dead man, they get distracted and accidentally throw the body into Elijah's open grave instead. When the body hits Elisha's bones, the man comes back to life. As our reading closes, Elisha's final prophecy about Jehoash and Israel's battle with Syria is fulfilled. Hold up a minute. Who did they? Elisha often works through signs and theater. And in this scenario, he uses arrow shooting, ground beating to convey his insight and wisdom from the Lord. Then Elisha dies. Later, as the locals are preparing to bury a dead man, they get distracted and accidentally throw the body in who's the other person? Jehoash? Says, wow. They throw the body into Elisha's open grave instead. When the body hits Elisha's bones, the man comes back to life. Who's the man? Is that Joe? As our reading closes, Elisha's final prophecy about Jehoash and Israel battle with Syria is fulfilled. I missed something. Today's God shot. We only get 2 sentences about the accidental resurrection, but they serve to remind us that Elisha's power of resurrection don't originate with him. They exist outside of him, granted to him by God, who, unlike Elisha, isn't lying dead in a tomb somewhere. He's living and active. His power isn't confined to our abilities. He's working even when we can't. And while it may wound our pride to recognize it, he doesn't need our help. He can accomplish his good and generous plans even without human intervention. God's goodness isn't contingent contingent on our strength or even on the strength of our faith. He's going to be good regardless. And he's where the joy
Where
is.
the joy.
You say he's.
And he's
And he's
where the joy
dang
is.
it, I messed that up.
Read that line one more time.
God's goodness isn't contingent on our strengths or even
Strength of our faith.
or even on the strength of our faith. He's going to be good regardless. And the sentence before that
Making your hands blue?
says he can accomplish his good and generous plans even without human intervention.
Amen. I
Amen.
didn't see.
Cool. That's awesome. We'll see it.
Look at the girls.
That's awesome. Careful getting that glitter.
Yeah, I'm gonna wash my hands. Is JC on the live?
Don't think so.
Oh, that's sad.
Stop, Diesel, quit.
Yeah, look how far this storm goes. It goes from.
Where?
That's crazy.
And maybe it was just
I don't understand.
Somebody that
I've
died.
completely missed it.
Jehoash is wicked king, and all his plans in the final days. Sarah with Syria destroys him and consults prophet Elisha, who has him do some strange things. As a prophet, Elisha often works through signs of the in a scenario.
First of all, this is wild. Then the Spirit of God clothed Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada the priest, and he stood above the people and said to them, "Thus says God, why do you break the commandments of the Lord so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you." Isn't that wild? Where did he come back to life? Where? There. It says as we close our reading. Where did that happen?
It would have to be 18, but not in Second Kings.
Kings. I've been looking in Chronicles. Second Kings. Thank you. And as a man was being buried, behold, a marauding band was seen, and the man was thrown into the grave of Elijah. And as soon as the man touched the bones of Elijah, he revived and stood on his feet. 21. I forgot that this is a recap of that, and I was just going into your little claw is hurting me. 21. So Elijah died, and they buried him. Now bands of Moabites used to invade the land in the spring of the year. Right here, when I was reading this, I was stuck on used because I was saying it wrong. I was saying used instead of used to. And as a man was being buried, behold, a
So
marauding
then,
band was seen, and the man was thrown into the grave. Now, and that's it. As the man touched the bones of Elijah. With the J? I don't see where it says the name of who was. It just says,
It didn't say who.
and as a man
Yeah.
was being buried, behold, a marauding band. As soon as the man's, isn't he already dead?
Who?
Elijah?
Elijah died, a while back.
Yeah, I think he's already dead. Interesting. Okay, thank you. I missed that. I remember reading that part, but I just remember being stuck on used and used to.
That's crazy. Imagine, like, people, and I would have freaked out. You would think that alone right there would be enough to make you.
Dig up a friend and go throw him on Elijah. Just kidding. That's wild.
Yeah.
I love the reminder that his good is going to happen with or without our help. And regardless of the strength of our faith, because I feel like that's something that we really try to grow, is the strength of our faith, you know? And that doesn't determine the strength or the goodness of our God.
I think what you said is key. I think can our faith maybe determine some outcomes of things? Yes, but it doesn't determine the goodness, power, and the strength of God.
Or if his will is going to be carried out.
Yeah, does God call us to have faith and trust him and to believe that he can do things? Yes. And do I think sometimes he waits to see if we are going to trust him to carry out certain things? Yes. But does it really determine? Well, it doesn't determine his strength and his power and who he is. Our faith has no contingent.
But I think it determines our experience of him in the journey. Like, my son's he's going to be successful regardless. He's going to be blessed. Now, his experience between now and his 30s is going to be different based on how much he trusts us, how much he respects us. His day-to-day experience is going to be different.
Right.
And his relationship with us, his peace of mind, just different things like that.
Sure.
That times 10,000 million billion for us and God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our works don't determine the outcome. I think that our works can shift the experience of the journey, but the outcome is his. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know. Because we're on the same page trying to walk through.
Because I believe right now we are living in the blessings of our obedience.
Right.
And you cannot go, well, all my sin, all my fault, all the problems, my fault, but all the blessings in my life have nothing to do with me. Because I do believe, obviously, it is all God who is the source of that. But whether or not we experience absolutely depends on us.
Sure.
To an extent. Because I remember one time in the midst of this, like, we had just done a very brave thing, and it was hard, and I was feeling that. And we were talking about it, and we were in kind of a deep moment, and Chris had said, it's just all God. And I just felt the Lord check us in that moment. Do you remember? Like, I said, yes, it's all God, but it doesn't honor him for us to not acknowledge that life is about to be different because we're obedient, because of our acts, that he wants to display that and use that to go see more obedience, more blessing, more intimacy with him.
And I think, yes, because we read that.
Yeah.
Like, when they're obedient, God blesses them and he does incredible things. And then when they step away, but here's what I think we were getting back to, even when they don't do, God can still do what he wants to do.
Yes.
God can still do good. Just like when it says that know,
Praise God.
Joash, isn't repentant. Nonetheless, God demonstrates his mercy
Praise God.
and sends someone to help him.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he wasn't willing, God still had something he was trying to carry out.
Yeah.
And he still
Yeah.
made sure that happened. And so
Yeah.
whether Jehoaz did what was right or not, God was going to carry out his plan.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that looks different because Jehoaz missed out on a major, blessing, or what could God have done through him in the kingdom. There's all kinds of things that we don't know because he decided to live for himself and not God.
Yeah.
But God's still going to carry out. So yes.
Yeah. Praise. That's so good, babe. And also, it's not contingent. Mm-hmm. It's not contingent on our strengths or the strength of our faith. It doesn't change his goodness. It does obedience and faith and trust. He constantly points that out. I just think it goes back to, what I said earlier. That changes our experience of it, for sure. And gosh. It was something I was going to say. Anyway, Diesel, stop.
It's okay. Think of it in a minute.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff today.
Yeah. Good stuff every day. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow we'll be here at 8 p.m. It's really already Saturday. It's that Sunday, and then it's Labor Day. Do we need to do a different wild time on Labor Day? Stop. Later or?
I think for people that have plans, it's probably better just to go ahead and do it early.
Okay.
If they want to go do whatever it is they want to go do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I'm all about sleeping, but
we're just going to keep it what it is. What are you excited about today? What gets no play today? And with whom and how can you share God's extraordinary love? I would just like to say that my husband today is going to show me extraordinary love. That's the plan.
It is. That is the plan for today.
That's the
Actually,
plan.
I have a date night plan for tonight, but at a new place.
Where?
In town.
Which town? Sherman? Is that in town?
Do you really want to know? I'll tell you.
I do.
It's in Denison.
Oh, that's in town.
It's
In the first town.
It's called 34 Chop House. It's a steakhouse.
Have you seen it?
Online.
Have you seen pictures?
Yeah, that looks like some nice
Okay, I'm excited about.
But if you don't want to go on a date.
That is not fair. Stop that.
What is it, D? Spill it. Little Mr. What's that stuff called? Slime maker.
Demarion, do you want to share?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
excited.
keep your eyes on the screen.
I'm excited about going to the waterfront with Mom and Roxy.
Oh.
And
I ain't invited.
Huh?
I ain't invited.
I thought you were gonna sleep.
What if I'm going to sleep?
Well,
Go ahead. What gets no play today?
okay, we get snow play today. Is not getting aggravated. My extraordinary love is gonna be Mom.
Thank you, Dee.
Excited to hang out with the fam today. extraordinary love to my wife and family. And evidently this little dog gets it too.
Right? She's just taking up all your touch and look at her. She is the sweetest thing there ever was. Stop it. You're such a bastard. Jackie's excited about the day with the family. Downtown Ocean Springs Art Walk. That sounds really cool. Not getting quality time in with my family. And love to Jesus. Best answer. What gets no play for me is not both getting some work done and also resting. I feel pretty exhausted. And then extraordinary love. Yes, maybe.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's pinching me.
I would never.
Yeah.
I'm holding Gucci. Look.
All right.
You guys have a great day.
You guys have an amazing Labor Day weekend. My book is out. You can click the link in, I need to put it in the profile here, in my Instagram profile at Stacey J Life, and go through that way because it is sold out online. And I would love for you to buy up the shipment that I purchased that's coming this way. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you to everyone who's already supported and purchased the book. It was such an incredible journey. And I just am in awe. It's amazing. We love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Check it out. Uno, dos, tres. He's where the joy is.
Okay, Diesel. Okay.
Yay.
Diesel had to come stick his nose in.
Mm-hmm.
Diesel.
Have a great weekend. Stop. Stop.
Diesel, go.
Stop.
Go.
Jesus, Louise.